My name's Jim Perdue. Live in Berlin, Maryland, and started surfing in Ocean City, Maryland in the early 60s. About 1961, my dad was doing business with this guy in California, and his two sons came, and they brought surfboards, which we had never seen before. All we had was inflated air mats that we used in the surf, and they were out surfing, and of course the lifeguards didn't know what to do, but they had a great time. And so I think it was probably the next year that Tim Higgins and his brother Lee got about 10 or 12 Malibu surfboards from a guy named Chuck Gunzleman down in Norfolk. Well, they came through Norfolk. He was in Ocean City, and these were styrofoam boards with a metal stringer and plastic skigs, and they were all 9'6". And so we started surfing with these boards, which was a good thing because we got hit so many times with them. The styrofoam certainly didn't do as much damage as fiberglass would have. So that was kind of the early years of surfing. It was soon after that it was probably the next year. We tried fiberglassing those boards, and we obviously weren't surf engineers, and that didn't work too well. So, but we started. The Hobie shop opened up about that time down on, I think, 16th Street on the Bayside, and so we all got Hobie boards. Soon after we got our fiberglass Hobie boards, I think Lee Higgins was approached by Bob Welch, Dr. Welch, who had a drugstore in Ocean City, and for whatever reason, I don't even know why, he wanted to sponsor a surf team. So, most important things were the jackets, blue jackets with a round emblem on the back that said Welsh Drug Surf Team, and so that was kind of, that was the thing then, to be in a gang. Welsh Drug Surf Team was composed of Tim Higgins and Lee Higgins, who kind of organized it, and Mitch Whitely, Chuck Campbell, Skip Valliant, and myself, and that was the team that we entered into the Ocean City contest that next year down at the inlet. And of course, Gary Proper was the big name. And of course, he won everything too, but from Florida, and he was that was kind of exciting. That was the first contest we'd been in, and so even knowing how you even go into a contest and was just eye-opening, and also to see the competition, because we only surfed with each other. We didn't see how good the rest of the world is, and it was really quite something. It's probably a couple years later, Chuck Gunzleman had a surf shop. I think it was down like 3rd or 4th Street in Ocean City, right on the boardwalk, but you go down below, and it was a Jacobs boards that he sold, and so there was a surf team around that, the Jacobs surfboards, and we would go up to Atlantic City. I remember at Ventnor, we surfed at Ventnor Pier, although the contest was down right there in Atlantic City itself. I think surfing came somewhat easy to us because on those air-inflated mats, as we called them, that you rented at the beach stands, we would always be on our knees catching waves, and as soon as we catch the wave, we'd stand up. Now the problem is that surf mat would go in a circle because it didn't have any skeg, and that was a big challenge. So actually, when we started surfing, it came somewhat naturally. The biggest problem was when it was really big surf, like a northeaster or something. I was 95 pounds, and trying to get out past the breakers it scared me to death just to even try to get out there. And I'd end up taking one wave because I couldn't afford to get through them one more time, so it was usually a very short day. And the other thing it was always interesting is the guards, of course, started saying that you couldn't surf after 10 o'clock. And so you could surf early in the morning up until 10 o'clock. And then after that, we would go up to the north end. At 94th Street, there was the last street, and then it was sand dunes until you got to the Carousel Hotel. And so we would surf up there if the wind was right, or go to Indian River, Delaware. Or if the wind was coming from the north, we'd paddle across the inlet in Ocean City to Astig and catch the surf coming around the jetty with a north wind. So Indian River was for the south winds, and Astig Island was for the north winds. And so we were basically doing that all day, and that was a fond memory, certainly. One of the fun things during the summer is you'd surf during the day, And then usually it got to the point where these surf movies started coming out. And that was a big deal. And I know when The Endless Summer, of course, came out, we had a drive-in theater in Ocean City out on Route 50 before you get to Ocean City. And they would always show The Endless Summer. Boy, we'd pack in a car full of 10 people and go out and watch that movie. And that movie just stoked everybody. And then Big Wednesday came out, and they'd have these showings, and you'd find out somewhere during the day, and it'd be in somebody's basement in some hotel or something, and you'd go watch those movies. But those movies were, I think, just really people excited, And the other thing is you always got excited in the wintertime about sending away for patches and decals and, put on your car or put on your notebook at school. And I knew every surfing spot there was in California and Hawaii from reading Surfer magazine. And I'll never forget. Finally, when I went to school at the University of Washington in Seattle, we had a meeting. I was in aquaculture, and we had a meeting in Hawaii, and that's the first time I've ever been to Hawaii. Well, my objective when I get there, I'm going to Waimea Bay, and I don't care. Now, this happened to be in June, which didn't make any difference. And the good thing is, the bus, the tour bus about aquaculture, they grew a freshwater prawn in the north end of Oahu, and sure enough, it's like a stone's throw from Waimea Bay. So I remember going to this aquaculture farm, went to Waimea Bay, and of course it was flat as a pancake, but at least I saw Waimea Bay, and of course I never had a chance to surf it. But just seeing some of these places, all my life I'd been reading about them in Surfer magazine. It was so exciting. The other one was Newport Beach, California, and they call it the Dirty Old Wedge, or the body surfing spot. And I was out there at a meeting, and of course I left the meeting. I wanted to go see the wedge, and of course it wasn't breaking. Of course, it's one of those things when you're there one day, your chances are pretty nil. But just seeing a lot of these surfing spots just really was exciting. Because when you're 15, 16 years old, that was a big part of the whole scene around surfing. When I was probably 17 or 18, my dad, you're going to work. So in the summer times, I was working in Salisbury all week, and every night I got off at 4 because we started at 7. I worked in maintenance, and so when 4 o'clock came, I jumped in my station wagon. I had a Valliant station wagon, already had the board in there, and off I'd go, because I figured I could catch it just when the guards were getting off at 5 o'clock. So I'd call Tim and find out where we're going to be, and so that's where I started running to the problems of work versus surfing. And but it made you hungrier, I think, because you weren't able to just do it when you wanted to do it. You had to work at finding time for it then.